a burned body in a garden, a body hanging from the ceiling of a gas station, and people are spitting on it. A ruler left lying on the ground for 12 hours. His terrified guards enter his room. These are not ordinary endings. These are the ends of dictators who thought themselves greater than death. In this episode, we will reveal exactly how each one of them died. You'll notice a terrifying pattern repeating itself. Each one tried to escape justice. He paid the price many times over in his final moments. Let's start from Berlin. In April 1945, the Soviet army was less than a kilometer away from Adolf Hitler's underground bunker, and the artillery was shaking the walls every few seconds. On April 29th, amid all this terror, Hitler decided to marry his mistress Eva Braun in a strange nighttime ceremony. Why would someone get married knowing he would die within 48 hours? Because he wanted to do the very last thing that he felt he could truly control, to choose his own path, his death by his own hand. On April 30th, around 3:30 in the afternoon, Hitler and Eva went into their private room. And what happened next was no ordinary ending. Hitler took a cyanide capsule, and at almost the exact same moment, he shot himself. Poison and a gunshot at the same time? An extra precaution from someone who wasn't even sure of his own death. As for Eva, she ended her life using only cyanide. Remember the number 56? That's it. That was Hitler's age when he died. We'll come back to it in a bit, because one of the dictators on this list will die at exactly the same age, but in a much more horrific way. The important thing is that Hitler's and his wife's bodies were taken to the Chancellery Garden. They were doused with gasoline and set on fire, all while Soviet shelling continued in the background. The man who sent millions of people to death camps ended up as charred ashes and was quickly buried in a crater left by a shell. And here lies the irony that made the story live on for decades, because the body was not left intact. Dozens of conspiracy theories emerged that Hitler escaped to Argentina, or that the body was a fake. But none of this is based on any scientific evidence. The dental examinations conducted by the Soviets and later DNA analyses of preserved samples confirmed years later that the person who was burned in that garden was indeed Hitler. But the real question is not whether Hitler died. The question is, was this the ending? Escape from justice? Or was it his last attempt to determine his own fate? Because at almost the same time, in Italy, there was another dictator trying to do what Hitler couldn't do, to escape while still alive. Benito Mussolini, the man who used to give speeches about restoring the Roman Empire, ended up wearing a German soldier's coat, hunched in the seat of a truck, trying to escape to Switzerland, hiding as if he were just an ordinary soldier. In 1945, fighters from the communist resistance, a German convoy at a checkpoint near Lake Como. Among the soldiers, they found the Ducey himself, the fascist leader, hiding like any other fugitive. They arrested Mussolini along with his mistress, Clara Petacci, and left them standing all night long. The next day, the resistance leader arrived with clear orders: execution, without a trial and without a defense, and without any last words to be delivered to the world. But what happened to his body after the execution? Because what happened in Piazza Loreto, Milan, wasn't just an execution. It was a planned act of revenge. Ironically, it was the same spot Mussolini chose months before, without knowing that it would become staged for his own end. Back in Milan, at dawn on April 28th, the truck brought the bodies. Mussolini and his mistress, along with some of the senior officials, who had also been sentenced to death. A crowd quickly gathered, and the scene turned brutal. Why here? Because months earlier, Mussolini had executed 15 resistance fighters and left their bodies on display in this very same square. Now it was his turn. People started kicking, spitting, and firing. More gunfire at the body. A woman fired her gun 5 times at Mussolini's body, once for each son she lost in the war. After that came the final scene. They hung the 2 bodies upside down from the roof of a gas station, with the crowd below chanting and celebrating. Now, let's talk about another dictator. This one didn't die by gunfire or in his sleep, but his story is even stranger than any execution. In fact, Kim Jong-il ruled North Korea for 17 years with an iron fist, and the official media promoted the idea that he was a leader with special abilities who could control the weather and that he didn't even need to go to the bathroom. But in December 2011, this man, whom they portrayed as almost superhuman, died of something very weird: a heart attack. according to the official story, due to severe physical and psychological stress. He was 69 years old. The North Korean media didn't announce the news until 2 days later, on December 19th. They said he died right around 8:38 in the morning while on a field inspection. After that, anchorwoman Ri Chun appeared, dressed in black, crying, and announcing the death of the dear leader. And the television broadcast live footage of people collapsing in the streets, crying and bowing before his portrait. Whether this grief was genuine or just an act out of fear, the scene was truly bizarre. Kim Jong-il's body was embalmed and displayed in a glass coffin at the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun in Pyongyang, next to his father, Kim Il-sung. The father, unlike most dictators, Kim Il-sung died a natural death and did not face any accountability for the famine, prisons, and executions that happened during his rule. He smoothly handed over power to his son, Kim Jong-un. The dynasty continued, but among all the dictators who were lucky enough to die peacefully, there was another who ruled with terror for 30 years, and in the final moment, that same terror came back to kill him. Joseph V. Stalin. He ruled the Soviet Union with terror for nearly 30 years, but in the end, that same terror may have killed him. On a night in March 1953, Stalin hosted one of his famous late-night gatherings at his country house, just outside of Moscow, at around 4 o'clock in the morning. Stalin dismissed everyone and went to his room. And then something strange happened. Stalin would always call for his guards mid-morning, but later a guard walked by and heard nothing from his room. The guards and staff felt that something was wrong, but they were too afraid to go in without being called. Stalin himself had craved this kind of atmosphere of fear, to even check if he was alive or not. You couldn't enter his room because it was very common for him to order your execution. In the end, when one of them finally dared to go in that evening, they found Stalin, who was 74 years old, lying on the floor, partially paralyzed from a severe stroke. He had been lying on the floor for almost more than 12 hours. Remember this number, 12 hours, because this number will come back to us in a very different way. Before the episode ends, with another dictator whose guards were afraid of him for exactly the same reason. Medical help was called for, but the delay had an impact. Stalin remained unable to speak for days, his face twisted, dying slowly. While the doctors tried to save him, some historians say that his guards deliberately delayed. Others suggest his entourage poisoned him, though this remains a historical rumor that they prevented help from reaching him in the first place. There is no conclusive evidence for it. In March 1953, at 9:30 in the evening, Stalin finally died. A period of mourning was declared across the entire Soviet Union. But behind the scenes, many people breathed a sigh of relief when his rule finally ended. If Stalin died because of guard negligence who were too afraid to approach it, then what do you think about another dictator this time, whose guards weren't afraid to get close to him, but were actually the ones who killed him? Rafael Trujillo, the ruler of the Dominican Republic, he treated it as if it were his own private kingdom. He was responsible for torture and the disappearance of many people over the course of 31 years. But when the hunter becomes the prey, Trujillo was traveling in his car on a highway outside Santo Domingo, when suddenly several cars blocked the road in front of him. A group of Dominican conspirators, most of them military officers, who had once served under his command. They got out with their weapons drawn. They had been planning this for months, with quiet support from the CIA, which wanted to overthrow and remove Trujillo. The dictator's car, who was 69 years old, was riddled with bullets. Some accounts say that Trujillo tried to fight back. He pulled out his pistol and fired at the attackers before he himself was hit by several bullets. Within minutes, his body was lying on the road, torn apart by bullets. The conspirators carried the body in their car. I'm really not sure what I should do with it. Trujillo's corpse remained in the trunk of a car for hours while they argued among themselves. In the end, some loyalist forces recovered the body, and after that, chaos reigned. The conspirators were arrested and executed, while others managed to escape. The country plunged in a major political turmoil. For a man who ruled with such brutality, his end was just as harsh as his rule. Now, let's look at another ending. But this one was captured on video, and the whole world watched it moment by moment. President Nicolae Ceausescu and his wife Elena Ceausescu. They spent Christmas in 1989 in front of a firing squad, and the entire scene was recorded on video. It was said that after ruling Romania with an iron fist for more than 20 years, they watched their power evaporate during the anti-communist revolution in the country. On December 22nd, they tried to escape Bucharest by helicopter while demonstrations swept through the capital. They were captured within 3 hours. 3 days later, on Christmas Day itself, they stood before a military court in the city of Targoviste. The trial was extremely swift, lasting less than an hour. It included charges of genocide and embezzlement of funds. The elderly couple appeared confused and defiant. Elena kept repeating that the court was illegitimate. After the verdict, which was known from the start, sentenced to death. Just a few short minutes after the trial had finally ended, Nikolai and Elena were led to an outdoor courtyard. The soldiers lined up. The couple was not given a chance to say goodbye or utter any last words, other than their protests. The firing squad opened fire, and the bodies fell instantly, riddled with more than 100 bullets. That's what it said. The execution was filmed on video. That same evening, Romanian television broadcast the news along with footage proving that they were truly dead. The footage spread worldwide, shocking viewers who saw a long-standing communist leader go from power to execution in just 3 days. But not every dictator faced such a swift and public fate. One of them disappeared for more than 20 whole years in the jungle. And when he finally died, he died so quietly that even his enemies couldn't believe the news. Pol Pot, the architect of the Cambodian genocide, in which about 2 million people died quietly in a hut in the jungle in 1998. After the fall of the Khmer Rouge regime in 1979, Pol Pot was forced to flee into the remote jungle located near the Thai border, and he lived on the run there for nearly 20 years. By 1998, he was 73 years old, under Thai house arrest, and also under house arrest by a faction that had split from his old movement. Pol Pot died in his sleep. According to reports, it was due to heart failure, but the timing was suspicious. The remaining members of the Khmer Rouge had agreed to hand him over to an international court for war crimes. Instead, he escaped justice and died in a bamboo hut. Damn, the Khmer Rouge knew just how much suspicion they would face. So they did something strange. They displayed Pol Pot's body to journalists and let him photograph him to prove that he was really dead. Pictures of his lifeless body appeared in newspapers all over the world. There was no trial and no accountability, and no chance for the victims to face him in court. Cambodia's butcher literally died in his sleep and escaped responsibility for millions of deaths. His body was burned on a pile of tires. Idi Amin, Uganda's dictator who ruled in the 70s and whose regime killed hundreds of thousands, wasn't executed or assassinated. When his regime fell in 1979, he fled. He escaped to Saudi Arabia and lived there for more than 20 years. He lived a luxurious life as a guest of the Saudi government. May God forgive our brothers in Saudi Arabia. The important thing is, he died in 2003 in a hospital in Jeddah due to kidney failure. May God have mercy on him, at about 78 years old. Sources differ about his exact age, because there was no accurate birth record. There was no trial, not a single day of justice, not even a moment. Before we continue, let's go back to that number. We asked you to remember at the beginning Hitler's age when he died. There's another dictator, this time in Africa, the military ruler of Nigeria. He died at almost the same age, close to that number, back in the month of June, in the year 1998. He was only 54 years old. He died of a sudden heart attack in the middle of the night at his palace. The government said it was a natural heart attack, but there were accounts, never officially confirmed, that he was poisoned while in the company of prostitutes. His family refused an autopsy. They buried him the same day, according to Islamic law. What was mentioned was just rumors, not confirmed facts. Saddam Hussein was executed on December 30th, 2006. It was supposed to be a calm, official scene, but it was anything but that. After the American invasion of Iraq, his trial was a long one on charges of crimes against humanity. Saddam Hussein was sentenced to death by hanging at dawn on that December day. The former president, who was 69 years old, was led away to an execution chamber in an Iraqi military base in Baghdad. The official protocol was supposed to keep things respectful, but someone in the room had a cell phone. As he stood on the gallows with the rope around his neck, the guards started provoking him with sectarian insults. Saddam responded with respect and defiance. He recited prayers until they opened the trapdoor beneath him. The scene was recorded on a low-quality cell phone video. It spread online within hours. His body was returned to his family and buried in his hometown of Tikrit. The execution sparked a huge controversy. Some saw it as justice served. Others condemned the humiliating manner. Muammar Gaddafi ruled Libya for 42 years, with a strange mix of brutality and eccentricity. On October 20th, 2011, he died begging for mercy inside a sewage pipe. The entire scene was filmed on the fighter's cell phones. During the Libyan civil war, Gaddafi fled Tripoli as opposition forces advanced. He made it to his hometown of Sirte. He held out there for weeks until NATO airstrikes destroyed his convoy. Gaddafi survived the wreckage. He hid in a concrete sewage pipe with a few remaining bodyguards. When the fighters found him, they dragged the 69-year-old dictator outside, with multiple cell phone videos recording the moment. The moment was captured on video. Gaddafi was injured and disoriented, his face swollen and his clothes torn. He was treated harshly by the jubilant fighters. In one video, he was heard asking, "What did I do wrong?" The fighters shouted in victory, and chaos broke out at the scene. What exactly happened in those final minutes remains a matter of dispute. But Gaddafi was shot in the head, according to most accounts, and died shortly after being captured. His body was later displayed in the city of Misrata. Local people lined up to see the body of the former dictator inside a commercial freezer, with phrases like "the rat in the sewer" becoming headlines in newspapers around the world. His body was later found in an unmarked grave. In the desert, at an undisclosed location, Augusto Pinochet ruled Chile for 17 years after seizing power in a bloody coup. In 1973, he overthrew the democratically elected government of Salvador Allende. During his rule, thousands of Chileans were tortured, killed, or disappeared. Thousands of Chileans. But unlike many other dictators, Pinochet did not die violently or in exile. He died in a hospital bed, old and at ease, without ever truly being held accountable for his crimes, even up until 2006. The former dictator, who's 91 years old, had been suffering from health problems for years. On December 3rd, 2006, he suffered a severe heart attack and was immediately transported to a military hospital in Santiago. Doctors performed an emergency operation, but complications arose quickly. Over the following week, his condition deteriorated and he suffered another heart attack. Fluid accumulated in his lungs. In December 2006, a week after his first respiratory crisis, and on International Human Rights Day itself, specifically, Pinochet died surrounded by his family at the age of 91. When the news reached the streets of Santiago, the reactions were truly divided. Some people celebrated joyfully in the streets because the dictator was finally gone. Others mourned him as the man who saved Chile from communism and brought economic stability. Those hoping for justice were disappointed. Pinochet spent his final years fighting not to be extradited and prosecuted. He was arrested in London in 1998 on a Spanish arrest warrant on charges of human rights violations, but he was later released for health reasons and returned to Chile. There, he faced multiple charges of human rights violations, tax evasion, and embezzlement, but his lawyer kept arguing that he was ill and too old to stand trial. The case has dragged on for years, without him ever being imprisoned for the atrocities. That happened during his rule. His funeral was a private military ceremony, and his body was cremated shortly after. His ashes were distributed among his family members, and some of them, according to reports, were scattered at sea. Most dictators thought of themselves as above death and above the law. Some were burned, some were hanged in front of cameras and cell phones, and some, the hardest to accept, died quietly in comfortable beds, surrounded by their families, without paying for a single crime. My wish is to see Bashar al-Assad executed in Syria. So tell me in the comments, which of these 10 deserve their fate, and who, in your opinion, escaped justice despite everything? If you want to know the story of another dictator we missed this time, drop their names, because honestly, there are plenty left. We've got more stories. An evil planet.